Here it looks like wrist restraints on a tree. I don't know what, for the life of me, what else those would be used for there.
That looks exactly like a rape tree, and that's what the coyotes that are the illegal criminal traffickers that are trafficking humans into the United States. So they like to rape and murder a lot of their female clients. So that's for whatever reason they like to climb the trees when they rape them. So they call it a rape tree, and they take the undergarments and hang it up higher in the tree to as like some sort of sick, demented trophy.
Hey friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you're watching this important interview update with Craig Sawman Sawyer on my main channel. You guys know I was given 2 strikes, so they prohibit me from uploading any videos for 2 weeks. This Thursday, I believe, will mark the end of that 2-week period. So hopefully you're seeing this video on my main YouTube channel. Of course, please subscribe to my backup SGT Report channel, SGT Report 2. I have Craig Sawman Sawyer on right now. He's the founder of vetsforchildrescue.org. And friends, as many of you know, there is a lot going on in Tucson, Arizona. Craig, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's a thrill to have you back on. I've been meaning to get you back on, and then I ran into this censorship issue with my channel and YouTube. It's just been a nightmare, but 2 strikes is not 3 strikes, so my channel's still up. That's a good thing. Craig, we're following the information very closely of the bunkers you guys have uncovered in Tucson, reportedly on CEMEX-owned property. I think it's abandoned property. Can you shed some light on this and tell us what you guys have found and any updates you might have?
Sure. I got a phone call from a third-party organization on Tuesday night that this VOP organization had uncovered one of these underground bunkers. The way that I was initially told was that children were in it and they needed safeguarding until law enforcement could get there. That there was some sort of contest for the kids. Anyway, when I got there, what I found in reality was 3 Tucson Police Department vehicles at a gas station adjacent to the concrete plant, interviewing the people from that organization that had found it and taking their report, and then the TPD officers left. And then so the organization offered to show me the site, so I went out there to view the site. My camera crew could not get there by then, so I just pulled out my cell phone when we walked onto the site and started filming, and that's some of the early footage that people may have seen of what this thing looked like on Tuesday night.
This is a prison cell. Only kids are being held down here, and I can tell you exactly how. Come in. I remember this whole thing they built over to conceal this. There's a plastic tube chamber in here where the kids are going in and out. We'll shine my light. You can see a piece of wood, and it looks like that the wood gets slid down there and the kids are crawling up if you look down in there when they let them out.
Yeah.
But there's different toys down there, little food bags. You can actually stick it in pretty. And then that board's used to slide them up. Yeah. The only way, because they're not going to reach down in there and grab them, so I guess they're having them slide up. But this is all the way down there. A child's not going to be able to get out of here, small child. And you're not going to hear them scream. Yeah. They're enclosed. You're not going to see them from the sky. Our drone didn't pick this up.
It was concerning. It was a septic tank turned on its side was the container, and it was buried in the ground somewhat, and put in like a ravine with logs and different debris over the top of it. So the reason I don't think that homeless people would put their children in there is because there's no ventilation other than the one hole. And it was very, very specifically hidden from overhead scrutiny. And it was in the middle of the woods, away from everything, not in a convenient place to get to other facilities. I think if they were just homeless, they could have been a lot closer to other things and not been bothered. But it seemed like this place was, they went the extra mile to hide it. So in that container, there's no ventilation. It's hot in there. It's rounded on the bottom. So imagine a round container turned on its side. It's you can't get comfortable to lay down and sleep. So there are children's items down in there. There's a little chest with drawers in it for children's clothing, and there's a fork, and there's some children's Lucky Charms cereal and little girls' earrings and clothing items and things like that. And there was even a chain with a padlock on it. It was a thinner, almost like a dog chain, but about a 4-foot section of what I would just call dog chain, with a padlock on it. So that was down there in the container. Now, what would that have been used for? I don't have any idea. It doesn't seem necessarily legitimate if you're camping or homeless. But anyway, so other things in the camp are discarded boxes of hair dye, brunette hair dye. So who needs hair dye in the woods, in the middle of the woods? What does anyone care what their hair color looks like? I mean, it's got bigger problems. If you're living in the woods, I mean, you're wanting food and shelter, right? That was our opinion anyway. And there are trees that are arranged in a way that have sticks lashed across them and multiple loops of fire hose and other strapping materials, rope, twine, nylon straps, and cables fashioned from knee height all the way up to maybe 8 feet from the ground. And it looks very specifically like wrist restraints in some configurations of this. So there was one little handle that's like maybe 10 feet or 10 inches wide and maybe 1.5 inches in diameter that was lashed to a tree, almost the way that like a child's scooter handle would be. And that was at 4 feet off the ground. And there was just a lot of indications of something repeatedly being tied to these trees numerous times for years, because these different materials were in various states of decay from the sun and weather in the desert there. So what was being repeatedly lashed to those trees, I don't know. But the investigators and the law enforcement agents that deal with a lot of border issues say that looks exactly like a rape tree, and that's what the coyotes that are the illegal criminal traffickers that are trafficking humans into the United States, they like to rape and murder a lot of their female clients. So that's for whatever reason they like to tie them to trees when they rape them. So they call it a rape tree, and they take the undergarments and hang it up higher in the tree as like some sort of sick, demented trophy. So you've got the septic tank with the children's stuff in it. You've got the hair dye, the rape trees, the sex lube there. There's children clothing toys everywhere, little dolls and like Barbie doll type stuff. And there's pornographic magazines and the garbage cans there. So could it have been sick people that are homeless? Yeah, but the totality of it paints a darker picture. One of my guys from counterterrorist background said, "Hey, Craig, this looks exactly what we see in Africa." Running Al-Qaeda, what we call rat lines, the way that they move their human trafficking in Africa, minus the rape trees. We don't see the rape trees in Africa. They don't do that so much there. But that's more consistent with the southern U.S. border, and this is on I-19, right at the south edge of Tucson, and I-19 runs straight down into Mexico, straight to Nogales. So this is a wooded lot in an abandoned concrete plant right on the side of I-19, just south of I-10. So the strategic placement is meaningful to our federal criminal investigators and our intel community veterans, and those of us that have just been all over the world and see how things run. You look at it from overhead, the location, it makes sense. So we don't know what it is. We're not trying to say that was absolutely a child trafficking waypoint or stash point, but what we are saying is that law enforcement needs to follow through and investigate very deliberately. I've notified the FBI now, given them a specific report on what I've found and believe, and hope that they follow through if they end up with jurisdiction of this thing, to run it to ground, to figure out what was really going on there, whether that be good, bad, or indifferent, and hold those accountable, no matter what their political positions, no matter what their financial positions. Whoever's responsible, I trust and hope that they will be held accountable and that it will come out and that the American public will be notified, and that's part of the problem. So one of the dynamics here is the other organization that initially found that site. They're a group of homeless veterans helping other homeless veterans and drug addicts to get off of drugs, and they're the ones that stumbled across it. And they said, yeah, there are homeless people out here, but not near this particular site. They stay well away from this site because coyotes run their drugs and children through here. So they stay the heck away for survival purposes.
Okay, well, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you if it was members of your team there from Vets for Child Rescue that made this discovery, and so we've cleared that up. Guys, a little bit on the big picture here. This was in Tucson, Arizona, where this was found off of I-19 and at the Valencia exit, right near there, evidently. And folks who are listening who may not understand what Pedogate and Pizzagate is, Representative Steve Scalise made a PSA about the widespread problem of human trafficking all over the country, saying that it is a huge problem in every major American city across the country.
The sad truth is that human trafficking is a real problem plaguing each and every community here in the United States.
And then a would-be assassin tried to take Steve Scalise's life at a softball game. Fortunately, he survived. And, as you know, Craig, President Trump is using the full weight of the U.S. government to try to combat human trafficking. And he's made a statement about that at whitehouse.gov, which I'll put up on screen here. What has been the reaction to all of this from local law enforcement down there in Tucson?
Well, so TPD took the initial report from the VOP org and then left. And the VOP, the head of VOP, then began calling Homeland Security and every which other law enforcement agency, and he could not get anyone to come out there and inspect the actual site. And he began getting frustrated, and that's why he resorted to the methods that he has. His guys, they hung it out there a little bit. They climbed up on the towers on this concrete plant and hung the American flag upside down and hung their own banner. And he says, we're going to stronghold here. We're not armed, but they're going to have to come take us off this tower. And he says, Craig, I'm doing this because they won't come out here and pay attention otherwise. Politically, they want this not to hit the public, and they want it to be quiet. He goes, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to force them to come in and do their dang jobs and investigate it. You know what? A lot of people understand that. It's a shame that bureaucrats, to be rattled out of their comfy chair, that somebody would have to resort to that level of tactic to get any attention. But, VOP is doing the best job they know how to do to try to raise awareness and get law enforcement out there and investigate. So, to my understanding, TPD did finally go back out there on Saturday. So we found it on Tuesday night. So Saturday, TPD finally went out there, spent 2 hours examining the site. And then I think that now that the FBI has been deliberately notified and requested to come investigate, I do hope that they forensically investigate that, especially the container, because there's only one opening in it, and those child's items, like the fork and the earrings, should have clean DNA evidence on them that should be still usable. So I hope that they do follow through with that, and no matter who they find is guilty, whether no matter how politically connected or financially wealthy, that they are held accountable and the American public are notified. So one of the problems with Tucson is politically they don't want this to be an issue, and the Tucson Police Department has had their police department cut by 1/3, and a lot of their other officers that are actually patrolling in Tucson police vehicles are not police at all. They're not even carrying firearms. They're just public servants with a uniform on that's similar to a police uniform, but they do not respond to crimes. Now, I don't know what kind of harebrained idea that is, and nothing against those public servants, but I think there's an indication that there's a lack of intent to serve and protect the citizens of Tucson, Arizona. And I certainly don't believe that the criminals and the child traffickers and the drug runners and the murderers and rapists have any more expectation to be served and protected by the officials of Tucson, Arizona than the citizens do. So I think we need to have a look at what's going on with Tucson and the management there and what's really going on, so to make sure that people are being served and protected adequately. So maybe there's multiple good things to come out of this, media dumpster fire, some people want to call it that. Kind of a crazy standoff event between that organization and police. We hope everybody's safe, and that whatever ends up coming up out of this, we learn the truth, and that ultimately, at the end of the day, children are made safer in the future because child traffickers aren't as able to do this as they were prior.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those listening, those who are familiar with Pedogate and Pizzagate, many of you understand how elaborate and sophisticated some of the child sex trafficking is. And many of you already know about the Art in Embassies program, which gives embassies the ability to ship what they call live art from door to door, essentially, and they can bypass customs. And there's much speculation that that is one of the ways that traffickers on more of a global scale, at the higher level, traffic in children. So certainly this discovery in Tucson, Arizona is something quite a bit lower level than that if it does involve children, Craig, as you well know. But let's talk about some of the victories that you guys have had recently at vetsforchildrescue.org. Guys, that is the official website to go and get the latest information from Craig and his team, vetsforchildrescue.org. Craig, do you want to highlight any of the recent victories you guys have had on a national level?
Yeah, man. Well, we've been training law enforcement now on our successful template of operations, where we've been able to run stigma operations jointly with federal and local law enforcement from coast to coast, arresting child predators. And it's worked so effectively that we've got a template of operations now that we're able to train law enforcement on. And so we're doing quite a bit of that. We're building out our organization, growing stronger, able to accommodate more people. Templates on there where people, volunteers and experts, whether they be intelligence community officials or law enforcement or investigators, or there are a lot of ways to help in this. So there are ways for people to register, enter their information so that our staff are able to reach back to them and plug them in appropriately. So there's even, we've gotten over 100 FAST team leaders who have been vetted now across the country, who are out there raising funding for our mission. And our mission, again, primarily is to alert the populace to the fact that we do have a serious problem to child trafficking in the United States. And so we're alerting the populace about the problem, and we're combating it through numerous ways, including education, running law enforcement operations to take the predators off the streets and rescue the children themselves.
Yeah.
So it's been fantastic. The young lady that we were able to rescue on Easter Sunday has made enormous progress. She's gotten her high school GED now. She is clean. She is happy. She's healing up. She is growing stronger and setting up her college prep courses. And it's so beautiful. Her family couldn't be happier. We just feel blessed to be part of that, and that recovery, and that entire rescue process is just, it's life-changing. It really is. I mean, selfishly, it just feels good to help in that regard. And, you can't rescue all the children, but you can try. And the biggest nuclear weapon, if you will, against child trafficking is alert the populace. And that's why we're filming Contraland, which is a 2-hour feature film documentary. It's going to air on Netflix this winter and reach over 100 million Americans and show them what's going on. So we've been filming that just about around the clock, depending on what day it is. And it's showing the American public what really goes on there, whether good, bad, or indifferent, surrounding child trafficking. So it's going to be an eye-opener for sure. Knowledge is power. We're all about empowering the American citizens with what they need to know and what the mainstream news media has refused to tell them until now.
What kind of demand for child sex justifies the number 2 million child sex slaves?
Everybody has access to your kids like they've never had access to your kids before.
The highest child rape consumption country in the world is right here in the United States.
the whole thing feels good.
Yeah, amen. And guys, the best antiseptic for corruption is sunlight. Of course, that's sort of the slogan over there at vetsforchildrescue.org. So support Craig. Look, if you want to watch movies all day long, pumped out by the Hollywood crowd, you can go see movies like The Avengers. If you want to support a real hero, a former Navy SEAL, then you want to go to vetsforchildrescue.org and actively support those who are trying to help kids. Craig, before I let you go, just a couple of things. What was the name of the organization that was out there trying to help homeless vets that made this original discovery? I kind of lost that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Veterans on Patrol.
Got it. All right.
Yeah, VOP.
All right.
And, a lot of people can be critical of their tactics. Their tactics are not our tactics. We're made up of different types of people, and we different experience, and we run things differently than they do. But I wish them, and I'm praying for their safety and success in accomplishing what they're out to do. And they're out to alert everybody so that the investigations are brought and that whatever happened there is found out and followed through on. So, man, I don't disagree with that one bit. So I pray for their safety, and I hope they're successful in that regard. Vets for Child Rescue is not going to be hard pointing and having any standoff at law enforcement. That's not what we do. We work directly with law enforcement. So we're trying to bring about positive corrections and change and greater support and funding for the law enforcement officers, the ones that want to do their job. Let's face it, the rank and file agents and police officers, they want to fix this problem. They want to safeguard the children and serve and protect the citizens. It's the bureaucrats that mismanage the agencies and mismanage the police departments and ruin it for all of us. So we're all about supporting law enforcement and making life easier and better for them so they can make our community safer for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and last question for you. This one is for me as much as it is for the listeners who may not be as familiar with you as I am. I've known you for a while. People like you, people like Liz Crokin, people like the Hagmans, our friend John Robertson. We've got the Honeybee, Titus Frost. There's a lot of people out there screaming from the rooftops about this problem of child sex trafficking, satanic ritual abuse, human trafficking in general. Right? As Steve Scalise warned about in that PSA. It's a big, big problem nationwide. It's real as the day is long, folks, and people like Craig Sawyer out there fighting the good fight every day. Craig, remind me how you woke up to this problem. For me, the Great Awakening occurred with the release of the WikiLeaks Podesta emails, with all that coded pedo language in those emails, presumably coming from Podesta himself. What woke you up to this problem?
Well, for me, it was federal law enforcement agents and intelligence community friends who were seeing the results of the investigations and the raids and the level of depravity and intentional harm done to the children. And they described it to me as evil. And they said, Craig, this is really, when you peel away the different layers of the onion, this is the front line of the fight between good and evil. It's almost as though someone is out to destroy the psyche of an entire generation by raping and torturing little ones and just wrecking their minds. It's the worst kind of depravity, and it just was very upsetting to even the most hardened law enforcement officers, and it broke my heart what I learned, and it ticked me off. And that was the genesis of it. And as soon as I committed personally to doing this, my daughter was brutally sexually assaulted, and Tucson, Arizona, by the way, and a force that had cut a third of its manpower, and by a rapist who had been he'd been in prison for 7 years. He's got numerous violent offenses, and he'd been out. He had a warrant for his arrest for 2 months prior to his attack on my daughter. He should not have been on the streets, but Tucson Police Department did not have the support from their chain of command, so they weren't manned up, and they did not follow through on that warrant. So that rapist and that violent offender was free to go attack my daughter. So Tucson Police Department's got a real problem, and I don't think it's for 1 minute it's the patrol officer. I think it's whoever's above them mismanaging TPD. So look, I hope that gets looked at and cleaned up. Mismanagement, especially gross mismanagement, doesn't serve the people that are. So let's hope that gets cleaned up and squared away, folks, for all of the citizens that live there.
Yeah. All right. Amen. Hey, I'm very, very sorry to hear that happened to your daughter. I had no idea. And you know how this problem then affects people all over the country firsthand. And boy, we all have our cross to bear in this country, folks. I mean, maybe you have kids with ADHD or Asperger's or autism, or your kids have been damaged by vaccines, or you've got family members who've gotten into opioids, or you're struggling economically. It just seems like every darn family in this country at this point has a cross to bear. And one thing we definitely can wipe off the plate altogether is this child sex trafficking. This is absolutely unacceptable in a civilized society. And we have a real hero in Craig Sawman Sawyer out there trying to fight for the kids. And Craig, will you shout out the website again?
Yeah, it's vetsforchildrescue.org, and we use the number 4. So it's vets, the number 4, childrescue.org. We appreciate your support. We're a humble group of veterans and started a nonprofit organization to help the kids. So we don't have any big government grants and funding. We're doing all this through $5 and $10 and $100 donations from good American citizens that understand who we are and what we're doing and believe in helping the kids. So we appreciate everybody that's been behind us, not only with the donations, but with the prayers. I'm a big believer that prayer helps, man. Some of this stuff is at a higher level than we can necessarily understand. So it's all important.
I totally agree with you there. This is we're in the realm of spiritual warfare with some of this stuff, and these evil deeds that these people at the highest levels and the lowest levels, MS-13 included, folks, these evil deeds these people are engaging in are nothing less than satanic, in my opinion. Guys, you can follow Craig for real-time news on Twitter at Craig R. Sawyer. And, of course, you can follow me at SGT Report on Twitter. Visit us at sgtreport.com. Check us out at thephaser.com. And check us out at thelibertymill.com. Our guest has been Craig Sawyer. Craig, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. God bless. And, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. For Real News 24/7, visit us at sgtreport.com. God bless.
We have a demonic force that is taking over humanity, redesigning us, creating something else other than what it is to be human.